Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Yeah. Okay, we're going to bow in. Okay, ready? Bow. Oops. Salute. Okay. Oh, minor, do we have to set up that camera? Oh, you did both of them? Oh, would you? Okay. Yeah. Took it away. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay. To the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, one more time. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands in waist. Circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center cross. Knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, and reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center. Hands on your waist. Neck turning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center, tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center, rotating. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, center, hands up. Pull in, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, spread your feet. Turn your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, turn. Stretch it out. Switch. 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 Okay, switch and straighten the front knee. Switch. 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 Center. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands in your waist. Shoulder roll. Reverse. Okay, press. Release. Exhale. Inhale. And stop. Hands up. Deep breathing. Okay. Reverse. Okay, palms down. Bigger circle. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, shake it out. Side to side. Shifting the weight. And shift over, lift. Okay, down. Now we're going to lift up. Insert needle. And center. Switch, other side. So you're going to lift up and down. Okay, shake it out. Hands swinging, leg swing. And center. Switch. And center. Side to side. Switch. And center. Okay, shake it out. Hands up. Pull in. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands here. Still grilling. Switch. Okay, open and close. Switch. Okay, Sarah. Circular movements. Okay. Low hoop. Shoulder height. Elbows down. palms down. Extend. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. Diagonal flying. Switch. Okay. Cloud hands. Okay. Down. Carry tiger to the mountain. infinity sign. Form the fists. Okay, palms together. Strum the lute. Turn, draw the bow. Okay. Fan to the back. Okay, raise the hand. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, we'll go through the sequence. Okay, short form. Ready. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, go to the long form. Okay, ready? Feet parallel. Okay, deep breathing. So we can work on posture or a concept that we've been struggling with over the last few weeks, or even since you've kind of evolved. So John, you always have a question, or Otis, you have a question? Just a lot of times we don't know what to ask because we don't know, right? What when I ask, you want to work on something, you say, well, what do we work on? Because is there any difference? So we have to kind of understand what the difference is in how we're doing our movements, or what we need to do to improve in maintaining balance, or how do we move from right to left, forward and back and center. How does this all happen? So John, you have a question? What's that? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So right to left really literally means right to left, but conceptually it means to turn in a direction. So in Tai Chi we have what we call the 5 directions. It's forward, backward, right, and left. So the way they say it, it's usually in a poetic term, but you gaze right to move left to move right. So it's kind of, it's balance in one way, but it's also a concept of how you prepare for the next direction of motion. So we have to think of the mind being a director. But what is the mind directing? We know if it's a director of a company, they're directing you in a certain way, or if you're a director for an orchestra, you're directing, the instrument players to do something. So in the mind directing movement, you have to have something, tangible, if not tangible, at least a concept of what to do with your mind as an intent or direction. So we use the term conscious intent. So consciousness is kind of knowing what's going on at that moment, right? And then intent is, what are you going to do? But before you can have an intention, you actually have to know what you want to do. Like if you never went to a mall, you wouldn't have the intention of going shopping because you wouldn't know that exists. So right to left is something we know about, but we've never actually thought about turning to the right or left specifically with the body. We know, take a right turn or a left turn because that's directional and it's mapped. But if we're standing here and I say turn to the right, turn left, I guess it's a little bit more abstract than we would imagine it to be. So when we start off the form and we shift, that's a shift to the left, right? In order to shift to the left, I have to bring weight over there and I adjust the right. Once I plant the right, I move to the left, or back to the right, and then I start to move. So that's lower body. So there's right to left more than just turning. There's right to left shifting of weight. And then you can actually look at it as right to left, meaning which side of the body are you going to? I'm going to my left side to bring weight over there, or go to the left to move right and left to move right to the opposite side. But I can turn my foot to the left or to the right. I can shift my body. I can move my hand to the left and to the right. Now I have 2 hands and I have 2 directions, same 2 directions. I can move my left to the left or right to the left. That kind of becomes a crossover. So there's lots of combinations. That's why it's confusing. But when we do strum the lute, the hand essentially is moving right to left, right? So if I go like this, that's opposite relationships, right? That's opposite relationship. I'm moving this side to this side to that side. So you have to kind of first get your hands to recognize that there is right to left. And right to left is not just right to left, it's left to right too. Do you see where the left or right is? So you have to take a look at this. I'm going to my right, then I'm going to my left. I'm going to my left, then I'm going to the right. So that's an integration of your right and left sides, but now you have a middle right, a lower left. And the same applies. Because a circle has two sides. If I go like this in one way, it goes the other way, right? So what this is moving to your right and to your left. So that's why a circle is what we use in Tai Chi, because all movements are circular. Because if you just went like this and like this, it's different from this, right? So when we go like this, we have to go from vertical to horizontal to vertical. So the change between horizontal and vertical is that. So if we go like this to the left and then to the right, left, and then to the right, we can go from vertical to horizontal or vertical to horizontal on both, in both appendages, but then create the vertical left-right position. So that's actually what beginning style is. So when we start off the form, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I actually went to the right and then to my left horizontal. And then I went forward and back. I turned to my right by pivoting this foot. Now, I'm pivoting to my right, but look at my heel. It's kicking out to the left. Then I shift my weight to the left, and then I drop my elbow. So I drop my elbow went to the right, top of my hand went to the left. I stroke down, and I go like this. And I move to center, but I go into the right. Then I move to my left. I merge the hands, and I become in the horizontal forward position. So all these manipulation of skeletal structure, which I call it, is actually only moving right to left. And then if you add a component up and down, that's what happens. But we can't think of it like that and do it. It's just understanding of the theory behind what's driving the movement. So you do it by doing it. You learn it by doing it because that's how we learn. We learn most of the time it's visual. Most of your learning is visual because it's visual information, it's mental imagery, and then you interpret that through perception. So you can't see it all because you don't know that that's happening. So when we go through the process of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So you have to have all those adjustments to, and that's the block form. Mm-hmm. So that builds into it. Well, because our body is made up of upper body appendages and lower body appendages, right? Then you have your torso. So the 5 coordinations that I talk about, the hands, the eye, the body, the waist, and the stance. The body is the posture, essentially, beginning style. The waist is your torso, which actually brings in a dimension of motion that you don't really pay attention to that because you're only looking at the hands. So how do you know when you're in this position that when you turn here, that the hand is going to go over there? Because when I shift to the left and I move to the right, I had to bring this 45-degree corner to the 90-degree direction. And in order to do that, I had to move in this direction. Earlier we did a turn and this shift and this was opposite. This is actually moving in the same direction and then this is moving in the same direction, and then this is coming down and then going to the forward direction. So you end up there because you have to create the turn by not only the feet but your torso. Now if I didn't do this and turn this way, I couldn't square my hip. If I can't square my hip and I stayed in this direction, when I do this, then my foot is going to go here. Because if I go like this, I actually feel like I'm out of position because I didn't turn to here. And because I didn't turn to here, my spine is not over the heel of the back foot. So that's all part of your practice in determining where your center is. So when we go forward, right, and left, then we go backward into central equilibrium. There's only one point that's central equilibrium. That's the vertical spine that goes over the heel. So if you notice, in the beginning, when we shift, what do I shift? I shift my spine to get it over the position over the heel. Then I square the body and I press. I sit back and I kick the heel out. Now the body turns as a unit, but my body turns as a unit not because of the shoulder turning, because of the hips. Then when I lean to this direction, what caused me to go forward in this direction is the hips. And the spine is looking for that position. When we flip the hands, now I'm square, and now my heel and spine are in line, and I go forward. And then I go to the corner, and I stroke down, roll back, across, and I push. So what we're dealing with is controlling. You're pushing over the forward foot. So while we're going directly to that wall, it's going to actually a little bit over this leg. So it's really the center is here. But it's a relative center. What's the relative center? When I push here, the hand, the nose, and the knee is the vertical line. So that vertical line is not center, it's a direction. So when we talk about directing your movement, your mind is directing your movement in a direction. So everything that we do is directional. Directional movement with a concept of right, left, forward, backward, center is something that has to be compatible. The directional movement have to work with each other. So when you direct your movement and you want to be conscious of your movement, then you have to understand. So when you start to understand what we're trying to do, the body becomes more intelligent, because the information that you fed to do that movement is not only being a physical thing, it's deciphered out here based on what you're trying, what's your objective, what you're trying to accomplish. So the mind and intent of that movement becomes part of that understanding. So when we say direct the movement with conscious intent, first you have to be conscious, and the second thing is you have to have an understanding of where you're going and what will happen. So the only way to actually understand it on a physical and mind-body relationship is just to do it. This is just information for when you practice it, to do it over and over again, and after several hundred or thousands of times, what ends up happening, years is one of the ways you judge time. You go over the movement in the form as we do over and over again, and eventually the movements become second nature, subconscious motion, right? It ends up, so if it becomes a meditative exercise, it no longer goes through the thought process, and you go through 1, 2, 3, 4. You know the direction is up and down. You bend from the waist, you turn, you end up here, then you sink your elbows and you turn, and now you're in this position. So while I just ran through that, there's a lot of everything that we talked about is built inside those movements. So, is there a benefit to that? Well, brain plasticity,
building neurons, building increased motor skill. So on a sort of wellness level, you're building tremendous, information. You're building files. Like if you got all the computer guys would know you're building files. And then over time, your files start to exchange the information. Then it gets simpler and simpler because it's all the same stuff. So every posture you get into, it becomes that kind of format. It's all programmed in there, right, left, forward, backward, and center. And then you become more, your sensory system that controls proprioception and feeling of space and balance and all that comes into play. And then you heighten your awareness and sensitivity of that because your sensory system and your brain starts to have an exchange of information and feedback. So that's how you improve balance. And then while you're shifting of weight and moving one leg at a time, you're controlling your center, but what you're really controlling is regulating your strength. You're building strength on one leg. In one-legged positions, even though we don't pay attention to it, you're always in a 100% zero position when you walk. There's no way you can take your next step over there without going 100% here. But the thing is, we don't always have 100% control, so we end up dropping that foot, and you're not really controlled. So, 100% of people sprain their ankles because they didn't control that front foot. Because you stepped off a curb or you stepped on a crack because you committed prematurely the weighting of that foot when you had no control. So what happens? The joint gets compromised and you end up spraining your ankle or twisting it. But you do have a reflex in there that's tied to proprioception that will tighten the muscle before it gets injured. But most of the time, it's not enough because you have too much weight going on that, and then it ends up still injuring your ankle. So the severity of that ankle is really how your response is to not to let it happen and control your weight before that. So now this is really pretty amazing stuff as what your body is capable of doing. So to practice that, if you just want to take just what we did and grasp the sparrow's tail, and we start with our triangle, and we have our hoop, and we have our squares, right? And even though, as simple as that, I go to the geometry position, I kick my heel out like this, and I turn, and here we are on the left side. We go forward, back, and forward. Hook your wrist and turn toward the front. So instead of going 45 degrees to go single, you go to the front, and you adjust this foot. If you want to open this hand, you would see your angular position. And then when you turn, then this hand, the left hand goes in, the right hand goes around. You round out and go forward. You pull back by rolling back. That's your divert. And then you push. And then we turn back to the front. And then we're back to center. If you want to do this, you can. Then you see the hook side goes in. The other side goes to the front. And now you're on the left side. You go forward. And you roll back. And then you go forward. Hook your wrist, and then you come in, you turn back to the front, and you're here. Now, if you didn't come to that position, you could just turn and make that something that becomes part of your turn. So the question you had, how do you know this hand is going to go like that? It's directional. So if I just finish grasp the sparrow's tail and I'm here, I'm going to just hold my hand, sustain that until it goes all the way to the other side, and then I go forward, I go back, and I go forward, and then I turn, and I maintain. There's my vertical as I transition through. So what I end up doing it like this, is to track my center line, my direction of movement, and what you're doing also is knowing what's going on as a sort of phase of the movement, because you have to, that's your end position. Now that's grasp the sparrow's tail, but you're working footwork, controlling the accuracy of your pivot, you're shifting a weight from leg one side to the other, and you're also turning. Now once I get to this position, the next line is to turn your torso to the corner here, when you go forward, then this is something that's not easy to realize, is that movements relative to your body is really your frontal position 0 and the two 45-degree corners. Now if I'm here and I move the center and I move there and move the center, that's what I'm tracking. But what are you measuring? You're measuring the joint angle position of the lower lumbar area, right? Your back, your lower back. It knows to turn that much and turn that much. And then if I combine it with the heel, then it turns out. So once you activate those muscles, and you have to activate them because they're inactive in a sense, the only thing that they know is that they're there, and if you bend over to reach something, they get involved. But they're really not involved in the way we're doing it, because we're mindfully using conscious intent to create a motion and teaching, those motor neurons that this is what has to happen. So you're building, tremendous amounts of motor neurons to do this task, which has to be a series of sequential events. And if you do it over time, just like anything else that you do that's physical, it becomes habit. So there's habits that are bad, the habits that are good. Are these good habits? Well, this is building an understanding. And then it becomes, the type of habit that uses the correct strength. So the baseline for most Tai Chi is use no strength. You use your mind and no strength, meaning excessive muscular strength. You have to use some muscular strength because our skeletal structure doesn't move unless you actually tell it to do it. Or it'll do it a bit anyways. Otherwise, your body would completely fall apart. It is something, part of your system that says, this has to happen. But that's, intelligence that you've formulated when you're an infant as you evolved. So when we do this, and we turn. So this is a drill. You go forward, and if you do this, we've done this before, when we do a sampling of grass to sparrow's tail, you have to start to bring in all the spatialness involved in doing that. So what you have to bring in is the understanding of geometry of position. Hoop positions, triangles, and squares and direction. Now when we push with one hand, it's really essentially the square position on one side, meaning it's square to the body here. When I shift like this, is my lower hoop. You see my lower hoop? I turn to here. It exchanges to a position, the vertical elbow. Then I go to the oblique elbow, to the horizontal elbow, and I start to turn my body and find that corner. And when I stroke, I go directly past my body until I get to a point to come back again and here. So your body has the frontal square position and it has two obliques. So that brings in another line of direction. So for you to develop natural motion, you have to develop movements that are compatible with the direction of your move based on the natural direction that your anatomy is designed to move in. We don't know that typically because learning visually, you don't really know where the body is when you're doing movements. So that's where coaches kind of help you, work through, the discrepancies in the movement to perfect it to get the maximum potential. That's mostly critical with activities or sports that require striking. When you strike, you try to maximize the potential of the force on impact at the end. So whether it's a kick, a punch, a tennis racket or a golf swing, you have to hit a target. So the proprioception and all the stuff that's involved with that kind of motor skill is very, very skillful, high level. So when you try to hit something this big from this far away, you have to be very precise with the geometry of position. So all the big sports, the big money makers, they work a lot on the visuals, the angles of position, the spatial awareness of all of that. It's because everything's multi-dimensional. And then ultimately, forces that you create that are very potent utilizes gravity. Without gravity, you can't control the center, right? So that's why it's important to understand the logic behind it. But ultimately, we're doing it for wellness. Do you need to know all this stuff? Probably not, because you can just keep doing it. But if you want to know this stuff and want to improve, then you kind of have to know this stuff. But if people just say, yeah, you know, I just want to go through the motions and that's the end of the day, so then you can't. But if you spend 20 years doing it, you want to know a little bit more than, you know, because when you go to the 21st year, you might say, there's nothing to it.